Hey, what's going on, Brave Duelist? I got my Exosister deck profile. Used to have a lot of relevancy against tier limit. Ever since the Banlist happened where tier limit got completely nerfed into the ground, it kind of fell off, but I'm thinking with after post Cyberstorm Access and the recent Monstrous Revenge, that Exosisters is back. Some decks that this deck does really good against ours right now is Runic and Vanquished Souls. The main reason why is because we run Shifter and Dimensional Fissure in the side deck. So a lot of this is going to be pretty standard stuff. We run 3 Martha because this is part of our 2-card combo. Special summons itself from the hand if you control no monsters or have only Exosister Xyz monsters out in the field. It does lock you to Exosister monsters, but for our opening combo that doesn't really matter. And then when this card is special summoned, it summons out an Ellis from your deck. This card pairs up with Martha, where Martha lists Ellis's name on her text, so they are paired up. And what Ellis can do is when Ellis is in your hand and you control an Exosister monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, so it's a free special summon as long as you have another Exosister monster on the field. Next up is Exosister Stella. This card is another mandatory 3-of. Special summon 1 Exosister monster from your hand, then if you control an Exosister Ellis, you get to gain life points. This is a really good card. Exosister Sophia. This is the only card I really question running at 3. With Exosisters, I really like just having my deck loaded up with Exosisters because I like seeing them in my opening hands. The only card that's not good enough to be a multiple copy is Exosister Irene. This card is pretty much only in the deck because Exosister Vadis. Exosister Irene is mentioned on Sophia, so when we use Vadis, we need to bring out 2 Exosister monsters that mention each other. So Sophia mentions Irene, so that's usually our Vadis targets. Next up for the Exosister spells and traps is Exosister Packs. This card lets us get any Exosister card pretty much in the deck, and the special summon effect is nice. Sometimes it helps on your opponent's turn to have this set, so you can summon out an Exosister monster. I prefer to use it usually to search Martha. Next up would be 2 Exosister Returnios. If all monsters we control are Exosister monsters, we could pay 800 life points, then target 1 card your opponent controls or in the graveyard and banish it, and then we can apply one of these effects. Xe summons 1 Exosister monster using cards you control. This works out if you end up using Vadis first. However, the second effect is actually a lot better than the first one. It says if you Xe summon this turn, banish 1 card your opponent controls. That's 2 banishes, 1 in graveyard, 1 in control, and then just in general, 1 that you control. Next up would be Exosister Vadis. Choose 1 Exosister monster from our deck, then take 1 other Exosister monster from your deck that is mentioned on that monster and special summon both, and then you shuffle them during the end phase. This card just allows us to get more Exosister monsters out, because usually our end board is a Magnifica. So with Vadis, we can get out 2 more Exosister monsters, and then if we have any of our special tech cards in here, or they move any cards out of the graveyard, our Exosister monsters effects activate, allowing us to Xe summon from the extra deck. Next, these are a little bit tech cards that came out in Cyberstorm Access that really gives Exosisters a lot more consistency on its first turn or even going second. We start with 3 of Sakitamas. We can reveal Sakitama from our hand, and after this effect resolves, we can conduct an additional normal summon. And this pairs real well with our 2-card combo of Sakitama and a Martha. You kind of need to run this just because you're an Xyz deck and you can never have enough rank 4 Xyz. We run a 1 of Aratama. This card does the same thing as Sakitama, except it allows us to add a spirit monster. Some people run 3 of each. 3 more of this would just make the deck too bricky. Realistically, you know, if we draw into Aratama, we could search the Sakitama, and then, but if we have the Sakitama, we can just use the Sakitama's effect to normal summon itself. So next up, these are a lot of the staples we run. In Exosisters, there's tons of room for staples. Honestly, these are all staples that work really well in the deck. So I like to run high impact cards in Exosisters, 3 triple Ts. Triple Ts are really good if we get Drolled, Ash, anything like that. Any card that our opponent plays on our first turn or even going second, this card helps a lot. And the next definite must is Dimension Shifter. All my friends hate me because of this card because they can't get their cards into the graveyard. If you just Dimension Shifter somebody, you might just win the game. This is a little bit of spice for the deck, is that DD Crow. Because we can activate DD Crow on the opponent's turn and just target any card and banish it, this ends up working really well with any of our Exosister cards. We played 2 Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom's just gonna run. We run 2 Infinite Impermanence. Once again, you know, it's Infinite Impermanence. For our going seconds, we do Evenly Match. Sometimes this doesn't actually totally hurt to open this in your opening hand. Sometimes just having it set can help you stay in the game. You can ask Juan about that. Our last card is Goes in Match. Goes in Match just really helps us out because most of the cards we play in our extra deck and main deck are light monsters, and something that we have in our side deck that makes Goes in Match pretty spicy. Alright, so let's start with the extra deck. A lot of this stuff's going to be pretty basic. Exosister Michaelis. What this card is going to do is when you Xe summon it on your turn or your opponent's turn, banish a card your opponent controls or in their graveyard. The other effect is to be able to detach a material from this card and add a Exosister spell or trap. But this card is really important, but it's not the first Exosisters you want to go into. Exosister Capsitel. This is what I would call our starter Xyz monster. Detach material to add a Exosister card. On the turn its Xe summon is it prevents your opponent from special summoning monsters from the graveyard. 2, Exosister Gerberdine, and also I gotta list Exosister Asafel. These are the 2 main cards I would be Xing on your opponent's turn. Then our 2 boss bombies are Exosister Magnifica. This card just has 2 quick effects, where the first one says we can target detach one material from this card and banish one card your opponent controls. And then if your opponent activates a card in response to the Magnifica, detach a material from it. So let's just say in this situation we have a Gerberdine and Asafel. Let's say I did Asafel, right? I turn that back to my extra deck. When this resolves, I use my Magnifica as material for my Asafel, and that's another way to get into your Xyz monsters on your opponent's turn, or even on your turn if you need to. And with all these Exosister Xyz monsters, the most important thing to remember is that their effects are only live the turn they are Xyz summoned. I run the Utopic Future package. Most of the times I don't like to go into this turn 1. This is kind of more of a grind game thing, because sometimes we'll be in positions where we have multiple Xyz monsters out in the field. So being able to go into this and get out another negate is really useful. And then my little hidden spice is Spriggan's Merrymaker and Gigantic Champion Sargass. And the nice thing about this is that when we detach materials from cards, from our Xyz monsters, we'll be able to pop a card on the field. Alright, so let's go over the side deck. I run 3 Dark Rule and Remores because this deck really struggles going second. Because I run Dimension Shifter, I also run Dimensional Fissure. We main board Dimension Shifter because I'm toxic. And I also side deck Dimensional Fissure because I'm toxic and my friends don't like me. Dimensional Barrier. We run a lot of dimension stuff in here, damn. Next up is 3 Cosmic Cyclones. We need to have a little bit of back row hate. And then to pair up with our Gozen match, we have 3 different Kaijus. I run a Dark, Earth, and Wind. You could realistically run like any of the other Kaijus you want. Paired with Gozen match, this can really shut out your opponent. It's really like almost adding insult to injury to them. Alright, so let me show you the basic 1-card combo of this deck. All you need is an Exosister Martha and a Saki Tama. Because we control no monsters, we're going to special summon the Martha. When the Martha is special summoned, it says that we can special summon an Exosister Ellis from our deck. Now that this has resolved, I like to go into our first Xyz summon. So, our first Xyz summon is Capsitel. Capsitel's effect, we're going to detach for cost. It does not matter what you detach here. We don't use our graveyard. We don't need graveyard effects. So, let's just say we do Exosister Ellis, and this will allow us to add any Exosister card. I add Exosister Ellis, and what Exosister Ellis is going to do is let it special summon itself because we control an Exosister card. Next, we'll be going to the Saki Tama. So how this works is that we're going to reveal this card, and once this effect resolves, we're going to conduct a normal summon. So this is on top of our initial normal summon. Now from here, we want to go into another Xyz. You want to go into your Collector's Rare Exosister Michaelis, and once again, we're going to activate its effect, detach a material, and we're going to add an Exosister Spell or Trap. So here, it's really hand dependent on what you add. I think Returnia is the good one, mainly if we get another Exosister monster. But if you want to get Exosister monsters out on the field during your opponent's turn, Vadis would be the way to go. So just for this scenario, we're going to add Exosister Vadis to that right hand. Next, we will use our 2 Exosister monsters into a Magnifica. We didn't even conduct our other normal summons. So like say, for example, we had a Sophia out, right? You can activate it and pay 800 life points and draw a card. So, yeah, look at that, we got an Emperor. And now that we have Sophia out, we're also going to be able to Xyz on our opponent's turn when they move the card out of their graveyard. Alright guys, so that about wraps it up for my Exosister deck profile. Remember, if we're going first and you add Dimension Shifter, you better be activating this. Martha's our 1-card combo. This is the most important card. This is the card you should be looking off of Exosister packs. We'll catch you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe even hit that bell. Have a great day, Brave Duelists.